Hello, everybody. I'm Ed Robinson, and welcome to this edition of At the Rim. This is a program to get you caught up on anything and everything happening around the NBA. Coming up on this edition of the program, we'll recap Game 7 of the 2024 second-round NBA playoff matchups between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets and the Indiana Pacers versus the New York Knicks. Plus, we preview the conference finals matchup, so it should be a lot of fun, so stay tuned and enjoy the program. I want to start off with my top three storylines. I would like to start off talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves. There's a saying that goes, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And man, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they started off very rough, but they finished smooth, or should I say they finished strong in more ways than one. If you didn't have an opportunity to watch the Game 7 matchup between the Timberwolves and the Nuggets, well, let's just say this. The Nuggets led in double digits at halftime. However, if you watch the game of basketball and you've been watching it for a long time, you know that leads can change very fast in a matter of minutes. By the middle of the third quarter, the Timberwolves, they really got tight on their defense. Anthony Edwards, he played lockdown defense on Jamal Murray. Nikola Jokic, he played a lot of minutes. He practically played the whole game, but he was also met with a lot of double teams, even at times being triple teamed. And when the Timberwolves tightened up on their defense, their offense got going. Anthony Edwards, not his best game, but however, he came up big middle of the third quarter and towards the end of the game. Minnesota was able to cut the lead to 1 at the end of the third quarter thanks to a three-pointer from Anthony Edwards. Since then, after that, the T-Wolves never looked back. Not just with Anthony Edwards starting off real slow, but finishing real strong. Again, Anthony Edwards, it's not how you start, it's how you finished. And Anthony Edwards finished very strong. Anthony Edwards had a strong finish. Rudy Gobert made his free throws when it mattered the most. Karl Anthony Towns played a great game. Jaden McDaniels was such an X factor in this game, in the Game 7 victory over the Denver Nuggets. And Naz Reid, this year's Sixth Man of the Year award winner. Naz, when Rudy Gobert got in foul trouble, Naz came in and played some scrappy defense. And Reid, along with Karl Anthony Towns, they created double teams. Nikola was flustered at times, especially towards the end of the contest. And the T-Wolves, again, it wasn't how they started, it was how they finished. And they finished strong, beating the Nuggets in a deciding Game 7 and on their way to the Western Conference Finals. And, man, Anthony Edwards, again, bad start, but a strong finish. And we'll get into the stats and all of that in just a moment. But, man, kudos to the Minnesota Timberwolves, because watching the game, being behind by double digits at halftime, and then you cut the lead to 1 at the end of the third quarter, man, boy, as they say, never underestimate the power of professional sports. And as they say, don't turn your TV just yet, because there was more to come. And definitely the Timberwolves had more to come, because they had more than enough fight left in them. And the Wolves were howling. They were howling in the mile-high city of Denver. And certainly congratulations to the Minnesota Timberwolves on being successful and beating the Denver Nuggets. And we'll get more into the stats and the box scores and things of that nature in just a moment. My next storyline is going to be the Indiana Pacers. So after the Pacers pulled off a beatdown over the New York Knicks in Game 6, we were looking forward to a Game 7 in New York City, in the Big Apple, in Madison Square Garden, right between the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. Well, the Pacers dominated from start to finish. Tyrese Halliburton is like a walking three-pointer. He was just on it tonight, so consistent, so efficient with the shooting. What a series he had. Also, Andrew Nembhard played well. Miles Turner played well. Aaron Nesmith played well. And Pascal Siakam, right? Pascal Siakam with the championship experience with the Toronto Raptors. He handled his business in more ways than one, helping the Pacers to go on to beat the Knicks to go on to the Eastern Conference Finals. Oh, and don't forget about T.J. McConnell. do not forget about T.J. McConnell. T.J. McConnell was very effective. I mean, throughout this series, D.J. McConnell was like not only a walking three-pointer, but he was a predator on the defensive side. You talking about hustle on top of hustle? That was T.J. McConnell in this series against the New York Knicks. So the Indiana Pacers beat the New York Knicks in their Game 7 series. We'll get into the stats and recap and all of that stuff in just a little bit, but congratulations to the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Indiana Pacers. And for my last storyline is going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder and the New York Knicks. For the Oklahoma City Thunder, they were the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, and they went through their growing pains in this series, falling short to the Dallas Mavericks in a thrilling Game 6 in Dallas at the American Airlines Arena. But they were the number 1 seed this year, and there's a lot of talent that they have on that roster, and we're going to see them be successful, I think, for the next several years, the next at least 3 to 5 years. The team is young. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, an MVP candidate, a lot of people said should have won the league MVP. There's a lot of argument to that, and let me just be the first to say that SGA had a great season, great postseason run. Chet Holmgren, tough for him, but, you know, he's going to come back stronger than ever. How about Jalen Williams? Jalen Williams is just phenomenal, man. What a bright future he has. Isaiah Joe played well. Lou Dort, do not sleep on Lou Dort by any stretch of the imagination. Lou was phenomenal in his own right as well, and so that team, Oklahoma City, watch out for them, man, because they're going to be great for many years to come. And Mark Daigneault, this year's Coach of the Year award winner, what a great job he did with OKC. They fell short in that Game 6 clincher, that Game 6 finisher in Dallas. I mean, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, P.J. Washington, Daniel Gafford, the ultimate rim protector this year. What more could you say about him, right? So a tough break for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I know they're getting their brochures ready. I don't know, to go to Cancun or go to Cozumel. Maybe they go to Nassau. I don't know, to go to Grand Cayman. I don't know where they're going to go. But bottom line is this. Congrats to the Oklahoma City Thunder. It was tough, but man, this is a team that's definitely going to be reckoned with for at least the next 3 to 5. And it's tough to win in the Western Conference. They were the number 1 seed, and nobody expected them to do big things. No, it was a season, it was like, whoa, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Wow, last year they were in the play-in tournament. This year they wind up getting the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. So that team is talented. That team is not going to go anywhere for the foreseeable future. And I mentioned the New York Knicks. Listen, the New York Knicks, they grinded, and they were just tough throughout this playoff run, especially in this series against the Indiana Pacers, but the injuries just got to them. Mitchell Robinson was going to be out for the remainder of the postseason, hampered by injuries. Josh Hart, he had an abdominal strain in Game 6. You could tell he was hurt and was not at his best for Game 7. Dante DiVincenzo hampered by injuries. OG Anunoby hampered by a hamstring injury. And then, to top it all off, Jalen Brunson, which we'll get into in just a little bit with the recap. Jalen Brunson fractured his left hand in the Game 7 in that series, did not return. I mean, you could hear a pin drop at Madison Square Garden. That's how deflated the energy was when Brunson went back to the locker room as a result of the injury. He did not return. But the New York Knicks, what a grueling series they had against the Philadelphia 76ers. A tough series against the Indiana Pacers. They fell short. The injuries got to them. And, you know, the New York Knicks were like this year's Timex watch. They kept a licking, and they just kept on ticking. But unfortunately, they ran out of time. But kudos to Tom Thibodeau. Again, you know, if you know about Tibbs' teams, he coaches them tough. He basically pushes them to the limit. Their body's hurting, and, you know, that's what it is with Coach Tibbs. But they'll be hopefully the Knicks will be healthy, at full strength for next year. Julius Randle is expected to be back 100% fully healthy from the shoulder injury. And Big things are ahead for the New York Knicks, and it was so refreshing to see a lot of the Knicks players come back to the Garden. John Starks, Patrick Ewing, Charles Oakley, Larry Johnson, Latrell Sprewell, Marcus Camby, Stephon Marbury, of course, Spike Lee, John McEnroe, Jon Stewart, all the celebs in New York were there. And it was just fun to see the Magic back at Madison Square Garden. Walt Frazier was there. Also, other celebrities like Tracy Morgan was there. Ben Stiller was there at the Knicks game. So it's one thing when Los Angeles is winning, but it's so much fun when New York is winning. When you have New York and L.A. winning and also the other small markets, it makes for great balance in the NBA. And life is so much better when you have balance. And it was just fun to see the Magic back at Madison Square Garden. It was fun to see not just basketball back at Madison Square Garden, but people getting excited about New York Knicks basketball. Just good to see New York City and New York embrace basketball again. It was so much fun, man. And what a run it was for the Knicks. And certainly it was tough, but 2024, 2025, next season promises to be one for the New York Knicks. You can rest assured that now that they've got the fans back at the Garden again, and they've got such a momentum and just riding a major high, man. It's a lot of fun, and certainly it was so good. It was really good to see a lot of those fans pack the Garden once again, just to see New Yorkers come alive again for basketball once again. All right, that took care of my top three storylines, all right? And now let's get to a recap of our Game 7s. Let's start off with the Western Conference Finals between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets. As I stated earlier, Denver was just completely dominant in the first half. They led by double digits at halftime, but the second half, it belonged to Minnesota. The third quarter was when things really the tide started to turn a bit. Specifically, towards the end of the third quarter, Anthony Edwards hit a big three-pointer to cut the lead to 1 to end the third quarter. After that, basically Minnesota just had their way with Denver towards the end, tightening up on the defense tightening up defense on Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. He really struggled in this game. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, KCP, he struggled in this game as well. And Minnesota, they filled in the blanks, and they took advantage of those opportunities when Karl-Anthony Towns got into foul trouble. When Rudy Gobert got in foul trouble, Naz Reid came in and filled in brilliantly, not just on the defensive side, but knocking down some key shots as well. And Minnesota, Anthony Edwards, again, bad start, but middle of the third quarter towards the end of the game, he hit some key shots, made some key defensive plays, and was able to help Minnesota get over the hump and win the game 98-90. So that's for Minnesota. Karl-Anthony Towns, what a game he had. He had a double-double, 23 points, 12 rebounds. Jaden McDaniels finished with 23 points. Anthony Edwards had 16 points. Rudy Gobert had 13 points. Naz Reid finished with 11 points. And Mike Conley Jr. finished with 10 points. Mike Conley Jr. is like the coach on the court. Conley I guess you could say, if you remember in women's college basketball at the University of Iowa, with Kate Martin being the coach on the court for the Hawkeyes women's basketball team. Well, that's what Mike Conley is. He's like the coach on the court, and the leadership skills, the mentorship, and he hit some key shots late in the game, and he wound up finishing with 10 points. On the losing end for the defending champion Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic, he practically played the whole game. He played 47 minutes. He finished with 34 points and 19 rebounds. Jamal Murray, 35 points for him. Aaron Gordon, nowhere to be found. He only had 4 points. MPJ, Michael Porter Jr., disappointing night for him. He only finished with 7 points. KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Christian Brown only finished with 5 points. So again, the final score: the Minnesota Timberwolves 98, the Denver Nuggets 90. So Minnesota wins the series in 7 games. And now for our other Game 7 matchup in the Eastern Conference, it was the Indiana Pacers going up against the New York Knicks. Indiana outpaced the Knicks, outshot the Knicks, and just New York had no answer for them. Pacers would win 130-109. So for the Pacers, we had Tyrese Halliburton finishing with 26 points. Andrew Nembhard and Pascal Siakam both had 20 points. Aaron Nesmith finished with 19 points. Miles Turner finished with 17 points, and T.J. McConnell finished with 12 points. On the losing end for the Knicks, Josh Hart had an abdominal strain, did the best that he could. Only finished with 10 points. OG Anunoby, hampered by a hamstring injury, only finished with 5 points. Isaiah Hartenstein, he finished with no points, but he had 8 rebounds. Dante DiVincenzo finished with 39 points. Alec Burks, taking the place of Jalen Brunson towards the end of the game, he finished with 26 points. And Jalen Brunson would finish the game with 17 points. Jalen left the game late in the third quarter left the game with a fractured left hand, and he did not return, and that was devastating. And the Garden just was silent. Just the atmosphere, the electricity was gone the moment that they found out that Jalen would not be returning to the game. It was certainly devastating. And listen, before Jalen got hurt, Indiana was just in total control of that game, and the Pacers never looked back, as again, they would beat the Knicks 130-109, winning the series in 7 games. And let's move over now to the elimination game with the Oklahoma City Thunder against the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas would go on to win 117-116. What a thrilling game it was between these two teams. For Dallas, Luka Doncic, triple-double, 29 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. Derrick Jones Jr., solid game. Kyrie Irving, hey, they don't call him the closer for nothing, right? Both of those gentlemen had 22 points. Derek Lively, he was effective too. He had a double-double with 12 points and 15 rebounds. And Daniel Gafford finished with 10 points. On the losing end for the Oklahoma City Thunder, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 36 points. Chet Holmgren finished with 21 points. Jalen Williams finished with 22 points. Lou Dort and Isaiah Joe both finished with 11 points. Again, the final score in Game 6 of that series, Dallas 117, Oklahoma City 116. So Dallas wins the series and will advance to the Western Conference Finals. And then in Game 5 of the series between the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers, total domination in that series, Boston would win 113-98. For the Celtics, right, it's about JT and JB, right? Jason Tatum, a double-double, 25 points, 10 rebounds. Jaylen Brown had 11 points. Al Horford, the ageless wonder, had a double-double with 22 points, 15 rebounds. Derek White finished with 18 points. Drew Holiday finished with 13 points. And Peyton Pritchard finished with 11 points. On the losing end for the Cavaliers, Evan Mobley finished with 33 points. Marcus Morris finished with 25 points. Max Strus had 12 points, and Darius Garland finished with 11 points. Donovan Mitchell did not play in this game due to an injury. So again, the final score in Game 5, Boston 113, Cleveland 98. So Boston wins the series in 5 games. They advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. So now we are set. We have our Eastern Conference Final matchup with the Indiana Pacers going up against the Boston Celtics. And we have our Western Conference Final matchup, the Dallas Mavericks going up against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Listen, Indiana and Boston, they had two of the highest scoring offenses in the league during this year. This is going to be an offensive showcase for Boston. You know the drill. You know the players, right? JT, Jason Tatum, JB, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Peyton Pritchard, Drew Holiday. We don't know the health of Kristaps Porzingis. He may be out for the first 2 games of the series. But listen, with or without Porzingis, Boston offensively, they've got their shooters, Derek White. How can I forget about Derek White, right? As for the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton. Need I say more about him? A walking three-pointer. Pascal Siakam, the championship experience. Aaron Nesmith, very effective. Miles Turner, one of the best defenders in the business. Andrew Nembhard, he's solid and very effective. How about TJ McConnell? I mean, he is like hustle personified. This is going to be, I think it's going to be a very intriguing series. This is going to be truly phenomenal. I know I'm showing my age a little bit, but the Celtics Pacers back in the day, right? Larry Bird, Reggie Miller, Chuck Person, Detlef Schrempf, so on and so forth, right? Yeah. Looks like we could have something similar to that right there. Again, these two teams were some of the best offensive teams in the league. Their shooting was just unparalleled during the regular season. So Boston and Indiana, this should be a lot of fun. And then we got Dallas and Minnesota. Oh boy. This is I mean, stars galore in this matchup. Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert. You also have P.J. Washington. You've also got Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford. Can't forget about Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, Kyle Anderson. This is going to be a show. The Celtics and Pacers is going to be a dogfight. I think Minnesota and Dallas is going to be a dogfight to the 10th power. This is going to be one heck of a series. Boston and Indiana is going to be a good series. Minnesota and Dallas, in my opinion, is going to be a great series. And, man, again, the East was good this year, but, man, the power remains in the Western Conference. And I think this is going to be a phenomenal series. There's going to be a lot of buzzer beaters, a lot of close finishes, and a lot of close calls in the Western Conference Final with the Dallas Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Well, that's going to do it for another exciting edition of the program. Thank you so much for joining me with another exciting edition of At the Rim. And, hey, we're in the thick of things now in the NBA playoffs. The conference finals, it's here. In the Eastern Conference Finals, the Indiana Pacers versus the Boston Celtics. And in the Western Conference Finals, the Dallas Mavericks versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. It should be fun. Until next time, everybody, I'm Ed Robinson saying so long, and you take care. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the channel. Remember to click like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for watching.